Cool. So yeah, think about your questions. If you want me to look at a file, um, darn, did I accidentally close box? I may have closed box. If you want me to look at a file that is different than what you uploaded Monday, you can upload it to the same location on Monday. Just let me know when I get to your name where your file is, or when you tell me about the file. So here in box, actually, you know what? I'll just make a new folder. That's fine, just so it's not confusing. So feedback for April 22. If you want any new feedback, upload it here. Otherwise, I will be referring to the files here. I have all your CAD files unzipped, unpacked, ready to look at. I wrote down some of the CAD questions that came up on Monday by your name. In case I forgot, or if you have a different question, let me know. So start thinking about that. Again, that said, today technically is kind of like a working day, so if you want to work quietly or whatever while you listen to me in the background, you can. I guess maybe, if anything, just pay attention to this beginning part with what I'm about to show in Keyshot. Again, it sounded like a lot of people had issues with transparency and section views, so I want to try and address some of those. So I'm going to start by importing a file here. So firstly, what I'm going to import is, this is a SolidWorks file. So I want to, this already was talked about, but I'm just going to repeat it. Keyshot does not always play nicely with SolidWorks. So I'm going to import this speaker as a SolidWorks file. Now, if anyone got like an error that said no 3D geometry found, the solution is to save it out as a parasolid, or it sounds like IGES is also recommended from all of your experience. So here I imported the SolidWorks file. Now, the last time that I did this, if I hide this back component, you can see the parts didn't come through. And again, it's just a bug. So if you are having that struggle, so this is just a raw SolidWorks file. I mean, the first thing you want to do, I guess the easiest thing to do would be to save it out as a step and try and bring it in. But of course, you want to make sure that you're not accidentally combining anything. So here, if I hide this front plate, here's the components. If I accidentally, in this extrude setting, have merge result checked, it's going to consume all of these guts and they'll disappear. I realize this is repetitive, but I think some people made some comments about things not working or having issues. So just double check that you're not merging a result. More than likely, the merge result probably wouldn't be at the top. It might be like, you could also accidentally merge results like with another, I don't know. For example, this extrude thin, right? If you're towards the end of your file, maybe it's late at night, you're trying to get it done for the project. You may forget that this is in fact, merge result is checked here in this case, but you may forget to like select the bodies, and auto select might be on, and who knows if maybe like the component gets pretty close here. If it was just a little bit longer, or maybe if this was accidentally going to the inside, like this. Right now, the two components are crashing. If this is auto select, suddenly, well, it may not, but there you go. See, now the wall has merged with the component, and so that's an issue. I mean, that would be an argument to not work within the part file and to work in as an assembly. Again, what I'm showing you is my preferred work method. I like having the part files in here because it's from a file strategy standpoint. I also find it easier to just have it in there instead of having it linked to something and to be able to build around it and see where it is. It does require some extra attention, though, to making sure you don't accidentally merge. So that's the first thing would be to come back in SolidWorks and check you're not accidentally merging your components. The next thing to do would be to save it out as a step file, sorry, as a parasolid or an IGES. Honestly, really any step, parasolid, IGES, they should all work. So I saved this out as a parasolid already. I'm gonna import it. And now hopefully we can see if we hide this one. Now all the components are in there. And again, this is just because it's a bug. I don't have any better answer or response to that. Okay, so that's solving that problem. The next problem is, that I believe came up, it's this issue of a section view. So again, we talked about one workaround is to simply cut the component in half in SolidWorks before importing it. Or I think it was Mireia who did not, when she mirrored her component in SolidWorks. So I'm just actually going to close out of this without saving it because I goofed it up. Awesome. Yeah, Mireia had the suggestion of in the mirror, whoops, I opened the wrong thing. Apologies. Actually, I don't know why I'm opening this. This one's already open. When you go to mirror this concept, so over here, mirror 1 and 2, her suggestion was for keyshot to uncheck merge result if you are building in halves. And then when you're in keyshot, you simply can hide 1/2 to get that section view. That's for the necessity of keyshot and the requirement of this project, that's a good solution. I like that. I'm going to request that, however, before you turn your file in, on Monday, before you turn the file in on Monday, make sure you go back to your mirror and check merge result. Just because it's best practice to make sure that it's a solid part and single part. I think again, it's a nice solution for the challenges some of you have had with section views. But then just check that merge result before you turn in your CAD file. So I'm going to attempt a section view here. So I'm going to go to, again, as a reminder, so it's edit, add geometry, add a cube. I'm going to change the scale of this cube. I'm going to make it bigger so that it covers half of our object roughly. Whoops, didn't mean to rotate that. I'm going to make it taller here by changing this Y to 1.4 or something. I'm going to say snap to ground, and then I'm just going to lift it slightly to avoid that shadow on the ground. This was a question I got at the end of class, just like a one-on-one question, is how to get some basic camera views. So in your camera settings here, there are standard views listed right here. So you can say front or like right or top. You can also change the lens setting to orthographic if you're trying to get these like two-dimensional views. So I'll sometimes use this to sort of align the cube, if you want it to be exactly in the middle. So just be aware that those are there and they exist. So now I'm going to double click on this cube and I'm just going to change the type to cutaway. Now because I moved it up a bit, that's why there's like these long fingers here. So I'm actually just going to move this again. I'm going to move it down. The problem is that it will cause issues for our shadow as shown there. Now, I didn't see it if it said it. So I'm going to say edit material here. So we're going to try inherent caps. Here you go. This is what I was looking for. So I don't know if you can all see this. I'll read it out to you if anyone's just listening. So I clicked on caps and then a pop-up appeared and said, for best results when showing caps, objects being cut should be closed surfaces. So closed surfaces means that in SolidWorks, if I open this part up, it means that it should be a solid body, not a surface body. So if you're in SolidWorks, it should be knit. Now, however, if you use this face trick where I turn this face to red and this as gray, when this comes into keyshot, it is no longer a closed surface body. This is the equivalent of making this red face here like a thin piece of paper and the gray piece a thin piece of paper. And so in this view, I'm going to click OK. So it actually worked. I'm going to go back to no caps. But it basically makes it look like, do you see how these look like they're hollow? By making this red and this gray, as far as keyshot is concerned now, this face is its own surface body. So this is an open surface body. It's no longer a closed surface body because I changed the color of this face. As far as I know, this is what is causing some of this may be a contributor to the cause of problematic section views. So try. It's not to say you can't do this. It is okay to change face colors. Just be aware that it might lead to a bug when you try to do a section view in SolidWorks. So for project 4, if you can avoid this, I would recommend trying to avoid it. If it's unavoidable, then you may need to do Medea's trick of not merging the mirror or physically cutting your object in half in SolidWorks first. The other options would be to render it without the caps in. It doesn't look as good or as believable, but in terms of like project points, if you don't have caps here, you're not gonna lose points for that. If you have some weird things going on, like this kind of finger at the bottom, I won't take off points for that. Again, ideally it's not there. I want your work to look good. So I'm assuming that these kinds of issues are happening partially because of this surface that's been cut out or parted out. And I'll do a test here in a minute to see. I'll see if this at the bottom is still happening. Let me let's move this up a bit. See if that fixes it. Yeah, it doesn't. So now let's turn caps off. Actually, I'm curious. So do you see that when I turn caps off, that long growing finger went away? Now, this surfacing causes other issues. If I now apply a clear material to this, let me just apply some more materials to some of these. Sure, we can link these. I think some of you had issues with clears not showing up how you wanted them to. If you are breaking out the surface as I showed and applying a clear to it, the clear doesn't work well on a single surface sheet. It works better on a full solid body. Does everyone understand the difference between what I mean when I say sheet and versus solid body? Okay. I mean, I think this is the best way I can show it, is like this is a thin piece of paper now because that face was broken out. Whereas this back part here, this is all one solid body. So I guess just be aware of that. Just know that in keyshot, thin, zero thickness surfaces that are just pure surfaces are more problematic for rendering. That's the main takeaway here. Now let's turn this section view back on. I think some of you also might have had trouble with lighting on the inside or darkness. Just be aware that there are some lighting settings here. Firstly, if you uncheck self shadows, everything lights up. What that means is that the object won't cast shadows on itself. It can be useful for clarity if you just want the object to be like understandable, but it will look less real. So I would recommend keeping self shadows on wherever possible. Global illumination, I meant to look it up. Let's, which I haven't done yet. But this seemed to solve a transparency issue in another file. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to apply a clear material back to this, just this front face. Now I'm going to import another speaker. This new one that I'm importing is going to have the entire body changed in color. That's gigantic. I don't know why that happened that way. If you ever experienced this in keyshot where you see a ball in the middle of a bunch of black, this ball is your scene. So that's how I knew, like, there's the original speaker we were working with. Here's a new one I imported. I'm not quite sure why it came in ginormous. I'm going to try to import it again and look at the settings carefully. Add to scene, center geometry. All right, not quite sure why that was the case. But anyway, if you need to rescale something, it's in here under position. So here you go. You can look at something that's already in there. So if you're trying to like set up a scene with multiple stuff, I can click on this original one and it says the scale is 0.0394. So I can click on this one and change the scale to 0.0394. And it should be the same size. I can also look at where this is located. It's located at 0, 3, and 1. I can come here and type in 3 and 1 and say snap to ground. So that's one way to align different things, is using the position command and looking at where other objects were. All right. So I'm going to apply a clear to this one now. And then I'm going to make the back blue. And this is what I was saying. So right now, again, if anyone's having issues with clear, right, we have this on here. We can't see what's going on the inside. So if we go to our lighting, firstly, if we uncheck self shadows, again, nothing is casting on the inside. So now it makes it more visible, but it doesn't look real. Global illumination seems to fix this problem. Let me Google this really quick. I meant to do it and I totally slipped my mind before this class. Okay. So here, just a quick Google says, global illumination, name of a process that simulates indirect lighting, like light bouncing and color bleeding. So I think based on that description, I mean, you know, full transparency, no pun intended. Sometimes when I work in keyshot, like some of these settings that I'm not as familiar with, I'll just see which one looks better. I'll check the box, make a gut call, does it look better? Uncheck the box. And global illumination is one of those. I think based on that description, it sounds like something you would want on. So just keep that in mind. Again, anyone who's having issues with clears or transparency. It may also help with the section view in terms of like lighting up the inside of your product. I think I'm going to assume that global illumination will make the render time slower, and it may make your computer run slower as well. Because if it has to calculate bouncing light rays and stuff, it appears to be off by default, and that's my guess as to why it's off by default, but I could be wrong. All right, so that's the main things I wanted to cover, is to let you all know about global illumination and the fact that it exists and could help you if you had transparency issues. To let you know about separating a surface color to try to avoid this if you can, for the sake of keyshot renders and this project. I mean, I could even extrapolate further on why not to do this for project 4. And that reasoning is, for project 4, we want it to be as real as possible. So if this red face is a different part, there should really be a part line between the red face and the gray face. I introduced this technique in project 2. It's a good workaround. It can be useful at times, but it should be viewed as a workaround, not as an ideal solution. If you are breaking out colors and materials, it's better to do it as the whole body, not as a surface. If you need to update your file and correct it, I believe if you right-click on any body, you go to this beach ball and this drop-down menu, you should see something down here that says remove all part appearances. If you click on that, it'll ask you to make sure you want to continue. And now here, even if I hide this, you'll see even the components lost their color. If for some reason you are importing your part into keyshot and it looks like everything has been merged in keyshot, that is one, and that sometimes happens with a step, I believe, so maybe that's a reason to use an IGES. If for some reason that's happening to you, you can change the material of the bodies. The way to do that, you can either go to your solid body folder here and right-click on it, and under material here, under body, let's see if this works. You can just sort of select these different components. Again, go to the beach ball, click on this gray ball, and then just pick a different color. And in fact, it's probably better to select colors from here, because if you inadvertently select the same color, so let's say I select green here, and then let's say, you can also right-click on the body itself, so I can right-click on this here, click on the beach ball. The difference is when you click on the body itself and you click on the beach ball, there's many more settings and more opportunities to make a mistake. Again, you want to select body. This is my advice. Now, if you select green again, there is a chance that if you bring this into keyshot, these two green parts will be viewed as one combined layer. So whatever you make this front face, it will attach it to this one. So that's why my advice is, if you are parting these out for separate colors, I would just select it from this color gradient down here. There's less of a chance you're going to select the exact same color, and so to keep everything separate. Again, though, you shouldn't need to do that. I just wanted to show you how, in the event that you needed to use that method. I think the last thing I want to show in this demo here, this is kind of a throwback to project 3. Whoops. Some of you wanted to know how to do light up buttons. Now, I don't have any buttons on here. Maybe we can pretend that this speaker is a button, like maybe this thing in the middle here. So I just want to, so the way to do that, this is, I'll credit this is TJ's method here. You go to Edit, Add Geometry, and drop in a sphere. And now if you want something to light up, so again, let's imagine we want this little orb in the middle of the speaker. We're imagining it's a button for this demo. You want to put your sphere just a bit above it. And then for this material, you want to change it to emissive or area light. Let's try emissive first. No. Maybe we can try area light. Let's try dialing this way down. 1000 lumens is super bright. And let's see if we can change this color. There we go. And even if that's too bright, I don't know, 0.1. And then under advanced, you want to uncheck visible to camera. And now it looks like and depending on the placement of that, depending on the material of your button, you can kind of make it look like it's lit up and glowing. Let's try this to make this even less bright, 0.01. So now if I were to then take like, again, I don't have this single button carved out, but here, let's now make this light up green or something bright green. It's just a way to make it look like the button's lighting up, is by basically adding an orb and using an area light. All right. That's all I wanted to cover for this keyshot demo. I hope I captured, again, I tried to take notes of what you all said were common errors and issues, and I hope I addressed that now. Yes, Giovanna, question? Or is that a...
Yes, I don't remember if you had said this before, like in another class, but if I wanna, like if I render one diffuser in a file, how do I do the next one, like with the same camera and everything if it's not in the same SolidWorks file? Is that possible?
Great question. Yes, it is possible. The way to do it, so let's say that this is my first speaker concept here.
I remember I had done it like for the
toaster.
toasters. I did them in an assembly, the three of them, but I don't know if there's another way to do it.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to answer that. Let me save this as just an example. All right, so let me try and see if I can get this to work. So for example, with your files here, oh, there's only one. You simply, so here I'm using Alex's as an example. I imported the first concept here. Then I'm going to say file import again. And now I'm importing the second concept here. And then I'm going to say file import. And now I'm going to import the third concept. And now do you see on the right side here we have concepts 1 through 3? We can cycle through them for the different views, and that's how you would set it up. If you now, let me see here. So now let's say I want this is my ideal camera view like this. So now over here I go to camera and I can say hero. Now if I like roll around or I want it for this view, I can go back here to camera and click on hero and it will align it. Obviously, I guess it's different for this concept's taller than the other one. So you may need to have all your concepts visible to make sure they're all within the same view. And then now here I can save this by just clicking the floppy disk icon. And so now I can toggle between the different ones all within the same camera view and angle. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Now, this is a bit of a deep dive. You don't necessarily need this, but let me show this as an example. So let's say I apply a blue, I want all my concepts in blue. Sure, I can link them. Is this it? It's model sets. So okay, so now I have all my concepts in blue. If you click on these double arrows up here, it says it's called model sets. I covered this on our first keyshot day, kind of briefly at the end. If anyone's curious about this, let me know in chat. I can find that video again and relink it. If you click on Add Model Set, you can see here what it's asking what you want to copy. So for example, like you could just copy a different concept. But the reason you would want to use this is if you want to explore different materials but save the work you've already done. So again, I just made everything blue. So just as a reminder where I'm at, in your tree or your kind of project viewing window over here, if you click on these double arrows, you can click on Add Model Set. You can, I would say, don't link the materials, especially if you're playing with them. But you do want to copy all the concepts. Maybe this would be, we could say red and click on OK. And now if I apply a red to these materials and I link them as they applied, oh, oops, it's locked currently. Let me do this. So the reason it's locked is because they weren't turned on visible when I made the new model set. To unlock it, like if you can't edit a model or it's grayed out, just simply right click on it and say unlock. The reason they all turned red is because all the blues were tied together. So here it's like I'm exploring a different material set for my concepts. Now again, if I uncheck this and check this one back on, all the blue ones are still saved. So you can use model sets to explore different views. Another way to use it would be to do one model set per concept. It's just a way to like organize your file a little bit deeper. It's not necessary. If for whatever reason everything I said just confused you, you can ignore it. It's there to let you know that model sets exist to explore different materials without undoing work you've already done. It's kind of like making a copy of everything and organizing it in a certain way. You could also, again, do that like one model set per concept if you wanted, but it's not necessary. Okay, any other questions before we get to the question and answer session? Yeah, happy to help. All right, I'm going to stop this recording here.